Whatever time of year it is, it always feels like summer's round the corner, and it's time for some of you guys to start training and getting in better shape. Getting in shape is about two main things, and that's building lean muscle and cutting off some of that extra body fat. If you can do those two things, you're going to be working towards a physique you feel confident with. The biggest part to getting in killer shape is to figure out where you're currently at and what you want. So first of all, let's identify what category you fit into, and then we'll talk about what you can do for each category so that you can get in killer shape. So the first type of person is someone that's very skinny, has very little muscle mass, and doesn't have much body fat either. I'll be putting up some images on screen so you guys can see which best suits your physique. Physique type number 2 is what we call skinny fat. So that's where you have skinny arms, you don't have much muscle mass, but you're also not skinny in the sense that you might have a little bit of extra belly fat, you may have a little bit of extra fat on your chest, you may have some extra fat around your love handles, around your waist. That's typically known as a skinny fat person, and you may fit into that category. The third type of person is somebody that may have a little muscle mass, but they have a lot of extra body fat covering that up. That doesn't mean that you do necessarily have a lot of muscle mass, but you certainly have body fat spread out all over your body. So hopefully you've identified which category you fit into, and if you haven't and you're unsure which category you fit into, just send me an email. My email will be somewhere in the description down below, and I'll be happy to review your physique and give you some pointers and point you in the right direction. If you fit into category number 1, that's somebody that has lower levels of body fat and actually is quite skinny, because you also don't have much muscle either. So what you want to do, the first thing, the most important thing for you, is to build some muscle mass. So let's talk about how we can do that. When we're talking about building muscle, the number one thing I always think about is weight training. If you want to build more muscle, you need to start lifting weights. When you lift weights, what you do is you're basically tearing muscle fibers down, and when you sleep and you eat the correct foods, those muscle fibers grow back bigger and stronger, and that's what builds a bigger muscle. Let me just throw a quick little power tip in here.
Isn't that a daisy?
And that is the most important thing that you should be focusing on with your training, is actually your form, making sure you're performing that exercise correctly, because it's one of the biggest mistakes teenagers make, is they go to the gym, or even beginners in general, and they start lifting weights, they're doing it incorrectly, and it's okay to make a few mistakes, but don't be reckless. Always be thinking, how can I improve my form on this exercise? Another really important thing is going to be sleep. It's something that's very easy to get wrong, especially when you're young. You feel good most of the time. It's very easy to have 4 or 5 hours of sleep because you're playing the Xbox, but the issue is with that, you're not going to make any progress in the gym. If you want to make progress in the gym, you need to be sleeping 7 to 9 hours per night. You don't build muscle in the gym, you're actually tearing muscle fibers down in the gym. When you build muscle is when you're asleep at night. So 7 to 9 hours per night is going to be optimal for building muscle. The next part of this is your nutrition. So to build muscle, which is the goal for you, you need to eat in a calorie surplus. That means you need to increase your calories. When you start weight training, those muscles will require more calories to grow bigger. So what you need to start doing is increasing your calories so that your body can grow. What I recommend doing is taking your body weight in pounds, multiply that by 16, and eat that many calories per day. Now your goal should be to gain 0.5 pounds per week on the scale. So if you multiply your body weight in pounds by 16, and let's just say you come up with the figure of 2,400 calories, if the scale doesn't move up in weight every week, you need to add more calories to that 2,400. And also the opposite applies to that. So if you're gaining too much weight, maybe you're gaining a pound every week, then you need to eat less calories, just a few hundred less, so you can make sure you're hitting as close to that 0.5 pounds per week as possible. The other part of nutrition for building muscle is to make sure you're eating enough protein. Your muscles cannot grow without protein. It's the only substance that you can put in your body that is going to regrow your muscle fibers, and that's because of the branched chain amino acids that are found in proteins. The way I recommend doing things is to take your body weight in pounds, multiply by 1, and eat that many grams of protein per day. Now if you're a day 1 beginner, or because I know most of you guys are going to be teenagers, maybe you're struggling for money, maybe you don't have access to whatever food you want. If that's the case and your parents can't help you out, just aim for around 100 grams a day as a beginner. At least for your first 6 months, that's going to be enough protein. One thing I do want to say though is don't be lazy. If you can get 150 grams or 140 grams or whatever your numbers are, then make sure you do hit that. Don't just go for the 100 because that's the next best thing. Some of you guys may need to go back and take notes to know exactly what you need to do in your plan. But let's move on to category number 2. And this category is often referred to as skinny fat. That's when you usually have skinny arms. You don't have much muscle mass, but you often have maybe some man boobs, maybe a little extra belly fat, maybe some love handles. And if that's the case for you, if you fit into this category, what you need to do is to first start lowering your body fat levels. So that means you need to do the opposite of what category number 1 is doing. You need to eat in a calorie deficit. So that means you're actually lowering your calories. And the reason this works is because that extra body fat that you have, whether it's on your stomach, whether it's on your chest, is going to be used as energy. Your body will burn that body fat up and use that as energy because you're eating less calories. Exactly the same as the first category, your sleep should be around 7 to 9 hours per night. That's going to go across the board. And for your protein as well, that should be the same calculation. In terms of how to eat in a calorie deficit, I recommend taking your body weight in pounds multiplied by 10 and eat that many calories per day. What you would typically do is do this for anywhere between 4 and 6 weeks, and then what you're going to be able to do is see if that's enough body fat lost. In 4 to 6 weeks you could expect to lose around 8 to 12 pounds, and that might be enough for you then to be in the position you want to be in. Your weight training plan should be exactly the same as the first category. It's still very important to make sure you're weight training if you're skinny fat, and the reason is because you're going to do all that hard work to lose that extra fat on your stomach, around your waist, wherever you're holding the most fat. But once you've lost that fat, you're going to be very skinny. If you don't start weight training and building some lean muscle, you're going to look really skinny. So you need to start building some muscle right away. Once you've eaten in a calorie deficit long enough so that you're happy with the amount of body fat that you've lost, usually around 4 to 6 weeks will be optimal for this. Then you can do the same as the first person and start to increase your calories and build some muscle very slowly. So 0.5 pounds per week, using all the same calculations as what the first category does. Category number 3 is somebody that's usually overweight or obese and may actually have some muscle as well. What you want to do is exactly the same as category 2, and that is to eat in a calorie deficit. So you want to be taking your body weight in pounds, multiplying that by 10. Your sleep should be the same. Your protein intake should be the same, and you should be weight training. All of those things are going to help you burn more fat, build more muscle, and that is what you need to do if you want to build a really nice physique. Also, again, the same thing applies. When you lose all of that body fat, if you haven't built any muscle, you're going to look rather skinny. So making sure that your weight training is very important. Depending on how much body fat you have to lose, you may run into an issue called a weight loss plateau, where you just basically stop losing body fat. If that happens to you, I do have a video that you can watch on that. I'll leave a link to that at the end of the video. That's something that's going to benefit everybody in this video, so I do recommend watching that video. And for you, what you should be doing is just keep losing as much body fat as you can until you're happy with where you're at, and then you can proceed and up your calories like everybody else does, or even eat at a maintenance calories so that you're not losing any or gaining any either. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel as well. And this is the perfect guide for any teenager to start getting in shape.